Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult, where we talk about not just the cult of Scientology, but we work some other cults in there as well. And today, what are we talking about? We're going to be talking about Scientology leaders' alien agenda. We're going to talk about how Neil Gaiman, his allegations, the blowback, not just on Scientology, but Tom Cruise. We're also going to look at an LA live streamer who shared a tale of being followed, and it's so creepy, and a bunch more stuff that we're going to talk about on today's Culty Recap. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much to the moderators for helping out today. Give them lots of aloha, all of you. Thank you, members, and everybody in the live chat for being here. If you're on the replay, jump in those comments. And everybody in the live chat, hit that like button, throw in those alohas. Let's get things hopping. I hear if we have a busy chat, we can get more notifications out. So let's see. Let's experiment with that and see what happens. Okay, so first thing we're going to take a look at all of the things we have to talk about today. Great to see you guys. I love seeing y'all pop in. Welcome, welcome, Asen. You're too kind. Thank you, Miss Mouse. Good morning and aloha, VGIs. Hey, Jane, welcome everybody in. We are going to start with the cutest thing, which it sounds weird calling it cute, but it's so cute and I love it. Mark Bunker and Tori Magoo 44, Tori Chrisman, have teamed up. They're doing some videos, but they have the cutest intro ever. We're going to take a look at this here. We'll look at it just a little bit of it. Take a look.
He was a fighter, calling them out. She was inside, lost in the doubt. But life's funny, it can twist and turn. Now they're a team, and the world can learn. Funky and Magoo, the dynamic two, giving a voice to what's real and true. A tale of hope, and what we can do if we all had a little Funky and Magoo.
How cute and adorable is that? I'll link it down below so you can see the whole thing. They also just did a video that you should check out because I love when Tori shares her stories and Mark Bunker too. And the combination together is fabulous. So great to see them doing content. So check it out over at Xenu TV. You can find it. That's where you can also find Tori over at Tori Magoo 44 on her channel. She's still doing content on her channel, but I love seeing them come together. I love a good collaboration. I love it, especially when people I enjoy watching on the internet, when worlds start to collide. I love it. I love it. What about you guys? I know a lot of you, some of you were even already following Jake over at Alt Worldly, and he came on the channel, and we're going to do more things together. And we're talking about that. Oh, worlds are colliding. That is the whole idea. We get out there, we build some community, we talk to other people, escaping cults, raising awareness about it. We have fun doing it, and we bring all the aloha that we can. So I appreciate all of you doing that. If you're new to the channel, I want to give you a big welcome and aloha. If you ever have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. If I can't answer your question, somebody else will, or one of the moderators. There's a lot to learn when it comes to exposing Scientology and cults. So don't be shy. Get in that chat and ask your questions. James Steele, we were wondering where you were the other day. There were so many like easy jokes there, and we were like, where's James Steele? Did I see Church of Satiretology too? Awesome. Wonderful. Aloha, PJ Mac. Hey, Bob. The gang's all getting here. So, okay. Now we need to talk about a little Freewinds Scientology news. So the Freewinds put out what's called a commendation, because in Scientology, when you are being rewarded or acknowledged for your good works, they write a commendation, and it goes into your ethics file, because in Scientology, they love to keep files on their members. I think Scientology keeps more files on their members than any other organization. I swear, they keep more files than people than the FBI or the CIA. I feel like Scientology would give them a run for their money. Let's see if I'm not forgetting any. There's a central files file on you. If you've ever bought a book, a course, a service in Scientology, that's where they write you letters and stuff. Then you have this ethics file where they put your commendations and all the knowledge reports that your friends and family have written on you while you're in Scientology. All of that goes in there too. Let's see. Then there's your what's called your pre-clear folder, another folder. So what are we up to? 3 now? Central files, ethics, pre-clear folder. When you're doing your Scientology auditing, everything is written down because you know what? They can't let that blackmail material just go sliding by. No, they put it in writing. I bet they go through a lot of pens in Scientology because a lot of this is written by hand. And in your pre-clear file, they're going to put the things that come up in your Scientology auditing. Anything you confess to, talking about your past lives, whatever that might be. And that usually the pre-clear folder, people will have multiples. So that's kind of like the file system there. It is kind of crazy. Let's go. I don't know. The Mormons seem like they're keeping crazier records, ancestry and all. Girl, true. That is true. I don't know how deep it goes. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole totally, but I heard some about it. But I cannot wait to find out more. I really can't. Irina, good point. Don't forget the Office of Special Affairs archives. These are separate from the regular Continental archives or the ethics database. That's right. Oh, we should wake them up. I don't want to be rude and have them feel like they're left out. They're probably slumped over their desks right now, getting a little bit of shut eye because it is kind of early in California. As per usual, we like to get our little David Miscavige, little Davy Miscaviges work together to wake up the Office of Special Affairs each day. And it's a weekday, so we get to be loud. Again, I don't know why that song always comes into my head when I do this. David Miscavige, please wake up your people. Office of Special Affairs, wake up. Natalie wants to talk to you. Okay, so like I was saying, we are going to take a look at this commendation written by, what is her job there? The lieutenant commander, the commanding officer of the Freewinds Service organization there. Let's see. Let me pull it up here. There's a couple interesting things about this that might pop out to you. Just might. Mainly the names. Very highly commended ARC OTC Freewinds. Now, OTC is Operating Thetan Committee, think PTA in Scientology. Now, this part threw me. So my former Scientology friends in the chat, ARC, Affinity, Reality, and Communication, but that doesn't make sense in this context. What is ARC, Operating Thetan Committee Freewinds? Is it another committee? Anyways, it says, and this is from yesterday, y'all. The above people are highly commended for their production every week, creating packed out webinars where they promote the Freewinds competence and leadership and OT hiding conventions. Every week, this results in people signing up for these services and booking their flights to arrive. This is amazing, effective, and brilliant competence. Keep going. Lieutenant Commander Sharon Weber, Commanding Officer, FSSO, which again is what? Flagship Service Organization. But these names, they all look like they might, except for Elena Robertson, they definitely seem like they're all from another country, which kind of just makes me go, okay, now, nothing wrong with that on the surface necessarily, right? People come from other places and do Scientology, but it seems odd to me. Yeah, Reprise 53, 3/4 of them are Russian and Ukrainians. I don't know why. Irina, tell me what you think. How the vast majority are non-Americans, mostly East European Russians. Exactly. So where are the people that are going onto the ship coming from? And why this raises a red flag for many of us is because Scientology is a human trafficking organization. And a lot of what they do is they recruit people who are vulnerable from other countries, promising them this great life that they'll help them with their visa, whatever it is, just come work for Scientology as a religious worker. But as multiple reports have shared, what do they end up doing? Taking your passport. And then you can't leave. And this is very common on the ship. So it just makes me go, because the whole idea is to get people to the ship to do this competency and leadership course, which in my mind is just free labor, because people go on to the Freewinds to do what I think they're kind of presented as maybe team building exercises, but really it looks like you're doing a lot of cleaning and doing things that the crew might do. And you got to hand it to Scientology. I think only Scientology really comes up with the most ingenious ways of getting their members to pay Scientology to do work for Scientology. I mean, you got to work hard at that. If you're going to do a scam, I guess, be good at it, be competent at it. Maybe that's what they learn in that competency and, leadership course that they really push. Also, it's a big feeder for recruitment into the Sea organization, because once you're there on the ship and you're doing things as part of the team, they tell you, you could do this full time. You could be here with us on the ship in the sunshine, going scuba diving, all the things we don't really hear about them doing. Although we've heard a lot about David Miscavige throwing parties, especially for Tom Cruise for his birthday on the Freewinds, and also him doing a lot of scuba diving and things like that. Something tells me the everyday Sea Org members, that's just not going to happen unless you're closely tied to David Miscavige. Constance June says, that is sad. People wanting a better life, escape a country conflict, and get stuck in a cult. Truly, that is what is very disturbing about this. Nisa, do they save point the naive so they don't find out about the Freewinds, so they don't find out about the ship? Or do you mean Navy? Can you clarify for me, Nisa? And we will try and pop back over on that question there. Let's see. Asen says, so I'm assuming those are people who wanted to get away from war. Scientology is using their dire situation. Yeah, that is the concern, because let's be real, Scientology is not having success in recruiting new members in America, in the United States and Canada. I mean, in a lot of English speaking places, word is really out that they are a cult, and more people are finding out about it and letting people know. But here they are, and I'm going to link it down below so you can take a look if you want to read that commendation. It's just interesting. Like, what are they doing? What is this about? Why are they doing this? Okay, now we have to talk about a little bit of icky. Actually, it's a whole lot of icky. This whole hot mess, Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman and his allegations, many of you know, severe allegations against Neil Gaiman. This has been in the news for a while now. It actually came out like last July in a podcast, but really hit, mainstream media, way more people talking about it in, I don't know, what was it, early January, you guys? And there is the Los Angeles Times came out with an article. Let's just take a look at that here. Let's see. The LA Times, Neil Gaiman dropped by publisher Dark Horse Comics over sexual assault allegations. This is real recent. Dark Horse Comics has taken a stance against author Neil Gaiman, who faces multiple allegations of sexual assault. The publishing company over the weekend announced that it would no longer publish the American Gods and Good Omens author's work. I think both were on Prime. I think I saw American Gods. I think there were a couple seasons. I for sure saw the first, but didn't. What is happening with the hair here? She's being extra. And Good Omens, I watched a little bit too, but I guess those aren't going to be moving forward. As part of taking seriously the allegations against Gaiman, Dark Horse Comics said on X, it also had canceled his Anansi Boys comic series and collected volume. A rep for Gaiman did not immediately respond to the Times' request for comment. Dark Horse Comics, which still features Gaiman's work on its website, shared its statement weeks after several women accused the writer of SA in a story published by New York Magazine. In the article published January 13th, 8 women accused Gaiman, 64, of assault, abuse, and coercion. The allegations stem from the 1990s to 2022, when he was living in the United States, Britain, and New Zealand. Several of the women who came forward about the alleged abuse for the New York article previously shared their stories in July 24 on the Tortoise Media podcast, Master the Allegations Against Neil Gaiman. A day after the article was published, Gaiman published a statement to his website denying the women's allegations. I'm far from a perfect person, but I have never engaged in non-consensual activity with anyone ever, he asserted in his lengthy missive. Gaiman wrote about his efforts to do the work needed, regain the trust of loved ones and readers, and reflect on his past. I don't accept there was any abuse. That's what he says. Gaiman has sold more than 50 million copies of his books, including The Sandman and Coraline worldwide. He has channeled that success into a lucrative Hollywood career built off TV and movie adaptations of his work that now faces some uncertainty amid the essay allegations. And then Disney, which was set to adapt Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book. That one I'm not familiar with. I didn't read that one. So they were going to make this into a film. Hit pause on the production in September, months after Tortoise Media broke news of the allegations in July. Shortly after Disney's move, Gaiman distanced himself from the third and final season of Prime Video's Good Omens. Which I did. I remember hearing that too. Following Gaiman's exit, Amazon decided in October that it would shift its Good Omens series finale efforts. Instead of a full season, Good Omens will end with a 90-minute episode, sans Gaiman, multiple outlets reported. Amazon in 21 also secured a series order to adapt Gaiman's Anansi Boys, blah, blah, a bunch of people's names who joined the cast. A spokesperson for Amazon confirmed with the Times on Tuesday that both the Good Omens episode and the Nancy Boys TV series were moving forward. Later, they're likely to premiere later this year. Now, this goes beyond Prime, though. Beyond Prime Video, Gaiman's work found new life at Netflix, which adapted his Dead Boy Detectives and The Sandman. I did see The Sandman. I did not see Dead Boy Detectives. The former was canceled after its first season in August, but The Sandman secured a second season. Next, Netflix revealed in September that The Sandman would return in 2025. A representative for the streaming giant did not immediately respond to the Times request for more information. So it's really interesting, right, Stace? Right? I'm not a perfect person, but my relationships suspiciously end in NDAs. I know. It's just kind of like, oh. And when you read his statement, which we read when it came out here on the channel, and he talks about, he's never engaged in anything non-consensual. And then you contrast that to what the victims, what their allegations are and the coercion. And there's a definite power dynamic there, with Neil Gaiman being Neil Gaiman. And there's some commonalities, it seems, with the women even that he chose. What I don't get, and maybe my limited understanding, is if he was into, what do they call it? Like BDSM, right? The master submissive, that there are whole communities for that. And there are rules around it. And I don't think it involves going and recruiting young, unsuspecting women who are there to do a job and, end up becoming a part of that world or that part of his life. That's the part that's like, you got a whole community out there of people who would be down with that. Why go for, that's where it gets a little for me like, well, there's a community for that. There's a time and there's a place. Which makes me think like, that's the thing. I don't know. Maybe we will hear, maybe he was in that community and people come out and say like, oh yeah, he was doing the same thing there, or he wasn't. Irina says BDSM's motto is supposed to be safe, sane, and consensual. Okay. Yeah, it does seem to be that way. So interesting. But this whole thing with Neil Gaiman, because from my perspective, what I've been paying a lot of attention to, of course, and we've talked about, is the number of times that Scientology gets brought up in relation to the situation with Neil Gaiman. Office of Special Affairs. I just don't even know how you're tracking all of the negative press, because we know, like, you're supposed to track all the negative and positive press in Scientology. But every time you read an article about Neil Gaiman, you're seeing something about Scientology in his past. His father was in the Guardian's office, which was the dirty tricks branch of Scientology, which today is called the Office of Special Affairs. They just rebranded. They just rebranded. So let's see. Defunct says, comment, I've been involved in the BDSM community for decades and taught, etc. He does not represent us, not doing it ethically. Thank you for sharing that context, because I don't know a lot about it, but what little I do know is that there are rules. This is not some free for all. And that, he definitely did not follow those rules. Stace says he didn't want to follow the rules. That's why he operated outside of those communities. It's part of it for him. Exactly. And what's being brought up and what a lot of people are talking about is, how does his upbringing in Scientology play into this? He didn't just grow up in Scientology. He ran a Scientology organization. He made it onto the confidential levels. He was a trained Scientologist. This isn't someone that just, grew up in Scientology and did some kids courses. He was held up as a child at 7 as the prodigy, as the example for what Scientology can do for children. That is not aging well. And I don't doubt that it's also part of it. When you read some of his books, like what was that one, The Ocean at the End of the Lane, and how he describes what happens to the boy, the character in the book, and he later refers to it as, that's him. It really sheds more light onto the whole, like his upbringing and what might have been going on. And then you throw Scientology into it. And, we'll have to just see what comes of this. Irina says, so if it was not consensual, it wasn't BDSM. Having said that, the BDSM community did have some false R report incidents in the past. Not saying this is the case with Gaiman. I don't know that. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's right, Defunct. Sadly, obviously, some unsavory types are attracted to BDSM too. Yeah, who thought? Let's have a little BDSM conversation over our morning apple cider vinegar. Coffee, water, tea, whatever you got going on. Liz Gale, Scientology spends millions of dollars undermining the concept of consent. It's not surprising that multiple born-ins are now being exposed as SAers who say she consented. They have a big misunderstood. That's a good point, Liz, because so much in Scientology, you don't really have a choice. It's not presented as a choice. You're not given a choice. Your only choices are, do you want to pay $5,000 or on a credit card, or do you want to write a check for that $5,000? Your choice might be in how you pay, but not how you play. It's not. I mean, think about even, kids who are raised in Scientology or the Sea Organization, which was the worst example of that. These kids weren't told, hey, how'd you like to go lay bricks today? No, it's a lot of coercion and being forced to do things by not having that choice or believing that you don't. In the Sea Organization, you have to comply. The code of a Sea Org member is you're going to take on any responsibility or job given to you, no matter the circumstances, and you're going to do it. So I agree, Liz. You're really right about that. Asen says, I read a number of people say hurt people hurt people. He was abused in a cult. That explains his actions. It doesn't excuse it, though. Exactly. I agree. I personally, my opinion and point of view is, I'll use myself as an example. The trauma in my past does not justify any wrong actions that I take against somebody else, or when I make mistakes or I do things that are incorrect and I later reflect on that. Because of what happened to me in my past in Scientology, it doesn't justify it. It might explain it and it might bring some understanding. And that's something we talk about a lot. And it's a lot of what I hope to bring understanding with this channel of people in cults and kind of the mindset, but also that life after a cult. that can change. You can let go of those ways of thinking and that false information that's been so embedded into us. That is a huge part of what I want to keep talking about here, having people on. It is such a process. That's a thing we see for sure. It is such a process. I'm catching up on your comments here because you guys are so fascinating. Great points. Okay, I don't want to fall too far behind. So, still on the topic though, we're going to look at an article that came out which kind of made an interesting point, and this I wanted to get your take on. Also, because basically this article says it's not looking good for Tom Cruise after Neil Gaiman allegations, even if he has distanced himself from Scientology. The essay allegations against Neil Gaiman can turn the scrutiny towards Tom Cruise and his beliefs due to one connection. And I thought that was really interesting. We've never had or seen that I'm aware of, other than Tom Cruise taking advantage of Sea Organization members and somehow being okay with he breaks up with someone and she should go clean bathroom floors now. I mean, we're not talking about exactly what Neil Gaiman did. I get the point of the article because it's kind of like, hey, Tom Cruise, like what? Even with the reports, the things we've learned about Tom Cruise in terms of being controlling, taking advantage of the slave labor in the Sea Organization, working to turn his kids against their mom, Nicole Kidman, his 2 adopted children. And I think at the end of the day, so much of this, and I feel like there's a change in society. I don't think that the celebrity culture of before exists the way that it does today. I don't think that we can put people, or that we are choosing anymore to put people on such a pedestal that they somehow are allowed and enabled for this type of behavior. Even talking about Tom Cruise with taking advantage of Sea Organization members who committed themselves to Scientology for 1 billion years, and they're doing things for him that he could easily pay them or somebody to do. I mean, let's not forget, how he and Katie Holmes got connected and brought together, and what had to happen for Katie Holmes to get away. There is such a theme of control and trying to control, along with black and white thinking. Tom Cruise will push people disconnect, because that's what you do in Scientology, who, he feels just aren't living up to par to his ethical standard. This is the same man who banished his 13-year-old niece for kissing a boy. And interestingly, I had the same thing happen to me at 13. I think she was 13. I might be getting the age wrong, but it was around there. His niece got caught on security camera kissing a boy on his property. Girl got banished. Didn't see her mother for 2 years per reports. Who does that? And for what? That's a crazy amount of control. And then this girl grows up thinking she did something so horrible because she kissed a boy. Well, when I was 13, some of you know the story, my mom had married my grandpa dad. Oh, grandpa dad. I was sent off. I was born and raised in Hawaii. I'd never lived anywhere else. And I was sent to Moses Lake, Washington to live with my mom's sister as punishment because I kissed a boy. In hindsight and looking back, I think it's more about the fact that Grandpa Dad knew I just wasn't down with him and my mom getting married and the way that all that went down. And it was 3 months that I was kept away, had to stay away. And I learned when I got back that I better not voice my opinion about what I think about my mom's marriage with Grandpa Dad. So, similar kind of thing. So again, the control in Scientology is next level, the control that they try to exert. And I don't know if that gives people an idea that, I think it does. I think it does give them the idea that that level of control is normal behavior, that you have a right to go around and try and control other people that way. Because we have seen it with Tom Cruise. I mean, we've seen it with, it happens in the Sea Organization and sometimes even outside of. It's just so heavy. Hold on. I just saw. Where'd you go, Liz? Imagine if you kissed a girl and you liked it. What would they have done then? I don't know. Back then, probably the same thing. They would have sent me to the same place. I don't doubt. I don't know. So I think it's kind of an interesting topic and thing to bounce around. Like, what effect, if any, will this have on Tom Cruise? I don't know. Tell me what you guys think about it. If you're on the replay, jump in those comments. Could it be too, like with so many, I think sometimes when it comes to Scientology and exposing so much, you get to the point sometimes, I know, even with me, where it's like, oh my gosh, how many times do we have to say this? How many people need to come out and talk about this and share their experiences in Scientology and the Sea Organization? I interview a good number of former Scientologists who are in the Sea Org, who are on staff, who are just in Scientology. And there are just so many common denominators there. So many in truth. That's true. You're right, Kathy. They sent Nora to the Rehabilitation Project Force for that. You are punished in the Sea Organization for wanting to be or desiring to be with somebody who's the same sex. And then we find out from John Atack that L. Ron Hubbard was bisexual. If you didn't watch the John Atack interview, go check it out. Go check it out. He dropped a whole bunch of truth bombs. Paralyzed to Paralyze says sexual guilt is an essential cult control mechanism. Really good point. Really good point. Because we see this in other cults too, through shame, through blame. In the Sea Organization, the higher up you go in Scientology, the more restrictive things get in terms of what you get to do with your body. What you choose to do and who you choose to do it with is very much dictated. In the Sea Organization, you need the permission of your senior to even get married. There's no premarital sex. And the higher you go up in the Sea Organization, there are sexual activities as a married couple that you are judged on and shamed about, and you're not supposed to do that. There's so much shame and blame put on it that how is anybody supposed to grow up in Scientology, the Sea Org, or other cults even, and have, a healthy attitude about their body and sex? It amazes me, but Paralyzed to Paralyze, great point, because we do see this in other cults too. That whole blame and shame. Yeah, Stasia, good point. Exactly. Sexual shame is deep in all religions. Which makes you think, well, if it's such a common denominator, it's definitely, it controls people. Because if you can make somebody feel shame and feel bad about something, are they, changing behavior out of shame or because they do think they're doing something that's wrong or harming someone else? And in Scientology, the judgment about that is so off because you get in trouble in the Sea Organization for doing things that anybody outside of the Sea Org, it's totally fine, even by societal standards. It's totally fine. But in the Sea Org, it's vilified and you're treated like a criminal and you're punished and you're interrogated and you're made to feel such deep shame about it. That cannot be healthy. Kathy says JWs are the same. Yeah, I totally get that. Asen, doesn't surprise me about L. Ron Hubbard. Wasn't he with that group before he came up with Scientology? Of course, they experimented. I suspect anything similar with David Miscavige. He has also some obsession with controlling other people's sexual life. That's true. Very much so. As far as him controlling, although I've heard the opposite. I don't know. I've heard stories of where it seems like him and his assistant might be getting it on. And then in other stories, it's like, no, he's like a monk. That's just all shut down. I don't know. I don't really know what the truth is there. Mock, great point. Also, sexually satisfied people genuinely can't be made too miserable and aren't easily controllable. That is interesting. I can totally see that. Carla's loving wife says, cult of Scientology love to tell you what to do in a marriage. L. Ron Hubbard sent his wife to prison. That's just fine. Pathetic cult leader sicken me. I need more coffee. Yeah, great point. Great point. Great point. Now let's go take a look at Dan Walks LA. Dan Walks LA did a fantastic live in Los Angeles. If you're new to this community, there are multiple people who live stream to protest Scientology, and we like to check in and see what they're doing. Dan Walks LA is one of those. He goes to multiple Scientology locations in Hollywood, and oh my goodness, did he have some fun. Let me grab this question quick, though. Professor Kakan, are we slamming him because he was bisexual? No, we're slamming him because he was hypocritical. Exactly. 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 It's not because he was bisexual. It was because he was, and he lied about it and punished other people for doing the same when they never should have been punished for it. Tony, you just watched Dan Walks LA on replay? Yeah, let's take a look at this here. He's doing a great job enturbulating Scientology. And I'm pretty sure enturbulating is a Scientology term for basically just upsetting people and messing with them, which Scientology doesn't like. But I love when Dan Walks LA does it.
But for sure, my presence here is enturbulating them, especially in front of the psychiatry museum. They saw me coming from a mile away and they locked up. That was awesome. So I'll just continue being annoying when I can.
Which we love you for that, Dan. Thank you for being as annoying to Scientology as possible. But then he had some serious fun at one of the Scientology buildings and locations. I just about spit out my apple cider vinegar water when I was watching this. It's so funny. Check this out, you guys. I think he's outside like the Galaxy Press area, and this is a video that was playing inside the window. That is Scientologist Jim Meskimen. Many of you might know him and his connection to Scientology. He's considered one of their celebrities. I don't know how much of a celebrity he really is, though. His mom was the mother on Happy Days. Y'all remember that? Sunday, Monday, Happy Days. His mom, oh my gosh, what was her name? Was it Miriam Meskimen? Anyways, the mom on Happy Days is his mother. But in Scientology, he's used a lot. So, he's a big deal there. Liz Gale says he has over 500,000 followers on TikTok. The guy's, he does really good impressions. He does. I've not seen him on TikTok, but I wonder if that's what he's doing over there. Yeah, that's right. Marion Ross. Yes. Thank you. Chantel and Justine. Thank you so much for that. That's right. The Fonz, BGIs. All right, let's take a look at this. Dan Walks LA.
His impressions are pretty good though, which sucks, but look at that Scientologist.
Now, how is Dan doing that? Like, how does it physically work? Because I don't know if he's streaming in YouTube or via StreamYard or something else, because this is just hilarious and it gets even funnier.
Sorry. His impressions are pretty.
You got to watch this one. It gets even better. He had such crazy fun with this. Yeah, I know he's using a filter, but I'm thinking I'll have to look next time I live stream in YouTube to find that feature because I've not seen it. It gets better. It gets better.
Oh my God, I'm dead. Oh my God. No.
And that's one of the Cyclops, right? From Battlefield Earth.
Oh no. Oh, what is that? Why? Oh my God, why is this so funny? Oh, okay. Oh. All right, enough of that. Oh my God, I'm dead.
It's so funny. And the funniest part too is Dan laughing. It's so great. It's so great. I truly could not get enough of it. It was so funny. I'm dying to find that feature on the phone. Oh my God. Ah, dang it. Hold on, you guys. Scientology Life After a Cult. This is Natalie. How can I help you? Yep, no, this is Natalie. Who? TMZ? Well, how can I help you? Who gave you my number? Xenu gave you my name and number. Okay. I have no comment on my relationship with Xenu. No, in the past. Look, you tell that little clout goblin that I have no interest. No, I'm definitely not going to do a sit down interview with you and him. No, definitely not. Target 2. No, I have no connections to Target 2. No, I don't believe L1 Hubbard's there, but if Xenu's telling you that you can reach him, why don't you get Xenu to hook you up with Target 2? Well, I wish him well. He called me the other day and asked for Liz Gale's phone number while I was in the middle of a live stream. So yeah, there's that. No, I don't know Blake Lively. I don't know Justin Baldoni. Xenu doesn't know what he's talking about. I do a morning recap about Scientology and other cults. Yeah, no. Clout goblin. Exactly. That's what Xenu is. He just needs to knock it off and move on. I swear. Yeah, he's just doing it for attention. Well, then he should start his own channel. Nope. All right. Well, thank you for calling. Man, people all wanting to get in my business. Now got Xenu giving out my phone number to media, wanting me to comment on our short-lived relationship. He just needs to he still owes Cheryl child support. You know, they're like, this is like, there are people involved here. He's trying to hook up with Liz Gale. You guys were here the other day when he called and asked me for her phone number right in the middle of a live stream. And I'm sorry to let my personal business spill over on here to YouTube and subject you guys to that, but you see what I'm dealing with. Yeah, stage 5 clinger. That is pretty much what I think Xenu is being. And you know what? What are we going to do though, right? And if it gets TMZ to do a story about Scientology and cover it, then so be it. But they're going to have to just talk to Xenu about it, because I'm not down with that. But maybe Feral Cheryl has something to say. They might want to call her. I mean, just on account of the child support and stuff. He's just not being responsible. If you're going to have kids, I'm sorry, you got to take care of them. You just got to take care of them. You guys know what I mean. You get it. That's right. That's right, Feral Cheryl. He had a spaceship. What does he have now? He was a galactic overlord. What does he have now? He had to be rescued from an electronic cage. What does he have now? I'm sorry. What have you done for me lately? Oh my gosh. That's probably why he's not paying child support, Cheryl. Honestly, like, he doesn't have a job. Go get a job, do something, start a YouTube channel. Even if you want, Xenu, just stop trying to clout goblin off the rest of us. All right, getting back on topic here. Let's talk about the live streamer who was followed, shared a very disturbing story of being followed by potentially people from the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. And a little bit of backstory for those who may not know. Office of Special Affairs, shout out to OSA, has a direct tie into the Citizens Commission of Human Rights. It's a front group for Scientology that fights psychiatry. They go around and they basically are trying to get rid of any valid type of mental health so that, yay, Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, even though it just does not work like that. They still push for it. Well, it has come out recently that the Citizens Commission of Human Rights is used by the Office of Special Affairs to deliver payments for people that they want to pay off so that they harass people exposing Scientology. And that's why this story here with Eric LeVay is very interesting. Listen to this.
Well, what happened yesterday was, you guys know I like to do these walks, right? So I'm walking past.
Did I say that right? LeVay, Laval? Can somebody tell me in the chat?
And I'd already passed the building, and I think I made a little bit of comment or whatever. And then all of a sudden I heard a door slam, and I was like, I just like wasn't up for that. So I kind of like turned. I was like, oh, this feels like this. There's like a problem. And it was this guy in a black trench coat.
How freaky is that? You hear a door slam from the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. You turn around, it's like guy in a trench coat. Way to like downplay it, Osa. Way to not be obvious.
I could not hear what he was saying.
Why don't you?
He repeated it.
Office of Special Affairs, you should just like get maybe hats made saying I'm with Osa. Because she's just pretty much so obvious about it. Oh, and by the way, when you send your little fake emails making it look like it's from one person, most of us know we can check the email. Like there's ways of checking and verifying. Y'all got to stop with these 1990 tactics. Seriously.
I actually wondered, because I've seen, how I cover like the far right. I've seen them do this trick before where they say something and it's low. And the idea is that you get closer so they can hit you. Like I've actually seen guys do that. So I didn't get close. And then someone's texting me. And then so I kept walking, and like a block later, I turned around. Not only is he still following me, but so is one of the security guards.
So now you got a guy in a black trench coat and a Scientology security guard. Tell me you work for OSA without telling me you work for OSA. I mean, you're now walking around with a Scientology security guard. Is the security guard protecting the OSA guy? Like, are they twinning up? What's happening?
So I'm like, you guys have heard me talk about how like I have a 2-page letter from them on my wall. Like they know who I am, right? I'm in that book or whatever. Like that's all part of the job. But even by some of the protests I've covered, that's what I was trying to get back to. That was extreme. Like I was at least 3 blocks away, and these guys were still following me, which was very bizarre.
Very bizarre. I'm going to link that down below so you can check out his channel, and then maybe he'll share more about that as well. But doesn't that just sound like such a Scientology thing? The trench coat is the part that really gets me. Didn't we have back in the 80s? Did we have trench coats as part of our Sea Org uniforms? Why is this ringing a bell with me? I know we had the pea coat for sure. Was there a trench coat too? It was like a really dark blue, like a navy color. Does this ring a bell to anybody who's around in the 80s? It's the last time I wore a Sea Org uniform. Well, actually the 90s, but I kind of remember that. So it could be, but yeah, keep an eye out for those Office of Special Affairs trench coat people, possibly being escorted by security. And good for him for calling it out and exposing that too. Mock says, just because the mullet has a comeback doesn't mean the tricks from the era have to. Oh, Mock, you're so funny. Asen, I think so. I wonder if they're convinced that they can be invisible given the superpowers they have. Can't you see it? They're following behind, right? Behind Eric. If I can't see him, he can't see me. I mean, that's what it looks like. This is what it's come to. Hey, Jesse. Oh my gosh. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. All right. Now let's talk about Feral Cheryl. Feral Cheryl's here in the chat. Feral Cheryl on the loose sat down and did an interview with Growing Up in Scientology. I'm going to link it down below. You guys got to watch the whole thing. We're going to look at a couple of clips. Feral Cheryl has such a fascinating story. Woman has a past. She is a woman with a past. And they get into all of that. But Feral Cheryl's dad was in Scientology, and she spent time with her dad growing up, but she herself never became a Scientologist, but she still experienced much of the trauma of being raised in a Scientology environment using Scientology technology and tools, which, the simple part of that is it's just not good for kids. Really, it's not good for adults either. So Cheryl has a really interesting story, and they were getting into a really interesting topic, talking about the deconstruction of families in Scientology and how that is really leading to Scientology's failure. Scientology very much seems to be bent on destroying families. They've done it. We see it a lot when people start to have doubts about Scientology or they want to leave. We see it when they break up marriages, like in, Tom Cruise's case. Turn the kids against the mom because you need these people to continue doing Scientology. Let's take a look at a clip from that interview.
From the youngest age I can remember wanting to be married and have kids and just loving kids. And I just like, kids bring me so much joy. I can't wait till my kids have kids because I want to squeeze some fat little baby legs. And, I can't wait. I miss being able to just enjoy just children running around and being children. Like my kids are too old. That's a different thing. Right. They're all like, they live in their own lives. And so I've always had, even as like a young kid, I remember being like wanting to have families and kids and everything. And then you compare like the experience of families and children in Scientology. I think it's one of the reasons Scientology is failing. Like the culture.
I think so too.
Yeah. The culture and the reality of the Scientology existence is like antithetical to what it really means to have a family and want a family and a big family, or even just to be able to enjoy family. Like enjoying family in Scientology is like off purpose.
Yeah, you guys, my former Scientology friends here know that if you want to be like, oh, I can't make it to that event because I've got a family dinner. No, not good enough. I got written up. I got knowledge reports written on me because I dared to not go to a Scientology meeting, event, whatever it was, because I had dinner with my husband. Not even joking. We had plans. So I'm like, no. And this was like during the 2-year period where I was an under the radar Scientologist. I was making active plans to leave, but was still having to play along. So I was trying and failing. But what do you think about that idea? Because when you think about the idea that Scientology's tactics in destroying families is probably a big key part of their downfall, because what ends up happening is what generation, especially that grows up with social media and access to the internet, is going to look at Scientology or hear all of the things that you can find so easily on the internet and go, oh yeah, sign me up, take my money. Kids who grew up seeing their parents have no life, being on the struggle train financially because so much of their money goes to Scientology. At the same time, belittling people for taking time for their families, telling them you have other fish to fry. That's what it would be called in Scientology if you're doing things that are not their priority. As a Scientologist, to be in good standing with Scientology, you need to align with their priorities. What they tell you the priority is, you need to live your life in accordance with that. And if you don't, then it's other fish to fry and you get in trouble. But it's our families and our connections. And I'm talking chosen family too. If you have your chosen family or your family you were born into, that is your support system in most cases, not always, obviously. But these are like your people. I think about my family, and I wouldn't be able to get through half of what I've gotten through in my life without my family, without that support. And Scientology works hard to destroy that. There's a fear of, and rightfully so, right? Because if family members truly spoke honestly about Scientology and had the freedom to do so, more people would leave. But when you're in a Scientology family, you can't talk to each other about your doubts and your concerns about Scientology without fear that that family member is going to snitch on you. Remember, I was looking at stuff on the internet, I was learning the truth about Scientology, the cult I grew up in and was in for 35 years. I was looking at stuff on the internet for 2 years before I even told my husband. But no, maybe it was less than that. It was 2 years when we left. But for some time, I wasn't even telling my husband at the time because I wasn't sure that he wasn't going to rat me out and ruin my plan to get my daughter back. And I needed that time to get my daughter back and do that. And Cheryl's story with her family and the impact that it had with her dad is another example of stunting that growth. not for the kids, but also the parents because of Scientology. Farrell Cheryl says Scientology's demise will come from breaking families up. I truly believe family is the glue. I think so too. That is a lot of the pushback. It's something we can all agree on, I think, too. If you've never been in Scientology, but you're all in on ending this cult. When you have a family that wants to be together, these aren't people necessarily that like, hey, I just like, this is not a family environment that's working for me. It's like Scientologists are indoctrinated to cut ties and disconnect because it puts a proper label, and I say that with quotes, on the person. And L. Ron Hubbard said, if you properly label them, they will come back. You got to leave the door open just a crack for them to come in and rejoin Scientology. It really is. I think that statement was very true. I'm going to read your comments, see what you guys think about it. Reprise 53 says, Scientology demands that the only way to be a member is to be a fundamentalist, arguably a hallmark of a cult. Very true. That is true. I feel like now I would see that. Growing up in Scientology, that was the norm. It was normal to live that way. So I never saw it as being something that was weird or not okay. I would go to friends' homes and see their family dynamic and how different it was from mine. Mine, it was more like a business relationship in many ways, somewhat transactional. We all had our roles, and if we did our jobs, we all lived another day. There wasn't a lot of nurturing or hugs, spending time together that way as a family growing up. And I would go to homes of my friends when I was young and see their parents just doting on them, making them food, asking them if they want snacks, just like parenting. And I was like, what's going on here? It was so foreign. Northern Girl says, cult of Scientology family values are so antithetical to the history of humanity. Family and tribes helped one another, not whatever the hell's going on with the cult of Scientology. I agree, Northern Girl. I totally agree with that. It is. It's very, and I think it's intentional. I think that L. Ron Hubbard knew that if you can put cracks in the foundation of a family unit in a family, you can isolate those individuals. Anti-ethical. Thank you, Nancy. I mean, that is a way to do it. Maybe that's why they're so dead set on doing this. Yeah, Mock. Crazy idea having children to actually care for them. What are they thinking? All right, now I want to get into, we're going to talk about Scientology and aliens. We have talked about this a couple of times. And in the community of Scientologists, well, you know what? Let's watch the clip and then we'll talk about it because you guys will see where I'm going with this. We've talked a little bit about this before.
But I'll tell you this, and you might have heard me say this already, but so when I was in the Sea Org, 2002 to 2006, my mom had married Bruce Thompson, who was the director of special affairs at the Philly Org. So he was the DSA. So, and the DSA has sort of a direct line, and people take issue with this, but RTC sends stuff directly to OSA, right? So Miscavige and RTC will send stuff directly to OSA. David Miscavige had personally ordered that all directors of special affairs read Jim Marr's book, Rule by Secrecy.
Really?
Which, of course, sounds like David Miscavige is endorsing everything that's in that book, which essentially, you essentially are by telling.
Basically, yes, yeah.
And Jim Marrs also wrote another book called Alien Agenda. And so Bruce and my mom at that point had come out to LA because my mom was doing auditing at AOLA. Like, they literally brought me these books and I read them in the Sea Org. Essentially having been told David Miscavige has endorsed these books. And so that's a perfect example of how what is in the book Rule by Secrecy and what is in Alien Agenda becomes like accepted. God, what's the word?
I hate to say the word, but lore.
I was going to say lore. It becomes, I hate to say it as well. I've got PTSD from that fucking word.
Me too.
It becomes accepted lore in Scientology.
Exactly.
Because David Miscavige has endorsed it. Of course, everyone thinks that David Miscavige has already done OT 9, 10, and 11, and 12.
Oh,
so
that's true. There is that assumption that David Miscavige has done these upper levels that absolutely do not exist. So him recommending any type of a book would give the idea that that is a belief, like a hidden secret in Scientology, and maybe he's just prepping people for it. And I find that very interesting. Not so much even because it's about aliens, because there are some, in fact, we're going to look at a clip who question, what does Scientology know anything valid about aliens? Do they have anything to add to that beyond all of the things that Owen Hubbard said about we once flew spaceships and you can go back in your past and recall these times and we lived on other planets, and of course people slash aliens, whoever they were brought over and dropped in volcanoes here, blown up, and those souls are now attached to us. It's the whole Scientology story. And I remember hearing about this over the years, yet there's a question being floated around, and we're going to look at a little clip of something that was on X that kind of questions, does Scientology, do Mormons, who, as I learn more about Mormons, apparently there's some alien lore in there as well in their belief system. I don't know a lot about it yet, but I've heard about that. And let's take a look, in fact. Let's look at that. Let's look at that clip from X. I think that's going to be a good one because this guy actually kind of brings that up. Listen to this and we shall discuss.
Is there a sect of people that have always known these NHI existed? Do these people have influence over most all nations? A sect of people. Well, that implies some kind of religious connotation. No, I am not aware of any religious knowledge of this. One thing that does interest me is I do think the Church of Scientology knows a lot more than it's letting on. And it's interesting because Danny Sheehan has indicated something about this. I strongly recommend people go back and have a look at his interviews. I also think that it's interesting that the Mormon Church has an inordinate number of people working inside the legacy program. And yes, we know who you are.
So interesting. Now, personally, and you former Scientologists here, tell me what you think too. In my time in Scientology, other than, L. Ron Hubbard would talk about like this fifth invader force and the Markabians and other planets. And the idea was really like they're just other species or people. I don't even feel like he used the word alien a lot, but there is no that I'm aware of like secret Scientology text about this is what's happening with aliens and this is what's coming. Now, maybe I just never read it. That's why I wanted to check in with all of you because, only what L. Ron Hubbard talked about. But as we learn when it comes to Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard made up a lot. The man was on drugs, literally on drugs, while researching and auditing himself and coming up with this concept of body things and that they're all attached to you. So what does he really know? I actually don't think he knows anything. I don't think Scientology has any behind the scenes information about aliens or what's to come. I think there might be Scientologists who have theories about it, but I've never known it to be part of the Scientology doctrine. Like, you know what I'm saying? Now, there have been a couple of things in his lectures where he talks about different alien races and things, and even that, in former lives that we flew spaceships and all of that. But the whole thing is interesting to me. So Professor Kakan said, Mormons, when you die, you get your very own planet. No way. Really? You got to tell me, is that for real or are you being sarcastic? I did not hear that about Mormons. That's interesting. Like I said, I don't know a lot about them. Power Lies to Paralyze says original operating Thetan level 8 and RJ67 combined would add up to alien conspiracy. The original operating Thetan level 8. Wasn't the original where L. Ron Hubbard said that Jesus was a pedo in the original? If somebody knows, let us know in the chat there. That's right, the fifth invader force. Isn't there a fourth invader force and a fifth invader force in Scientology? I'm trying to remember. Fourth and a fifth. I think there was. What is the difference? I don't remember. When I was in Scientology and doing my courses, I never paid that much attention to that part of it. But maybe other people did, and you remember. Jamie, he was doing phenobarbital. And John Atack talks about that in his book, Let's Sell Them a Piece of Blue Sky. That's right, Asen. He was on drugs while writing, yet preached no drugs. Condemned experimenting with sexuality while being bi. Hypocrisy galore. Exactly. That is so completely true. Oh, Jesse Prince released the... Okay, so that was in the original. That's what I thought. I thought that's how I remembered it. E.S. Gotcher says, why are people shocked by anything L. Ron Hubbard said? He made up stupid stories as a career before he started the cult of Scientology. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then he goes and, craps on other religions too at the top of Scientology's bridge there. Hey, Eric Rader. Martians flying exact replicas of Wright brothers planes. Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard described a few things that were like, well, that doesn't really sound like alien technology. I feel like even other sci-fi things of the day could have come up with a better story than how he explained the whole Xenu story. Ooh, Amber Vaness, who grew up in Scientology in the Sea Org. My mom would tell me some crazy stuff, like when we would go to sleep, our Thetan would go to another body. I always wondered if my other body was doing better than the one I had during the day. Wow, I can't even imagine telling that to a kid. How scary. Can you imagine thinking that? And for one, you're Thetan in Scientology, you are the Thetan. So they'll be saying you're going to go in another body while you're sleeping. That can be kind of scary. Professor Kakan says fourth invader force is on Venus. Fifth invader force is on Mars. That's right. I forgot about that. Mark says LRH also had a mission in time when he was on the Apollo. He said he was going to bring them to a secret alien spacecraft he hit on Earth in a previous life. Did they find it? I feel like I would have heard about that if they did, but that is interesting too. Yeah, defunct. Exactly. I always wondered with L. Ron Hubbard and the like, how much is just making stuff up and how much is psychosis related? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Jamie, he should have just stick to science fiction. Yep. Was he using psychedelics? It would connect a lot of dots. Carla's loving wife. True. It really would. Oh, yep. Then there's the what about the 1 through 3 invader force? Exactly. We hear about the 4th invader force and the 5th, but what happened to the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd? I don't know. I don't know. Hey, Moose on the Loose. Welcome, welcome. What was I going to tell you guys? Oh, yesterday we had a members only live stream. If you're a member and you want to check it out, you totally can. I really appreciate you guys becoming members of the channel. It's another fun way to support the channel. And we do these weekly member only live streams, which we cover a variety of topics. It's a lot of fun. And I like that it gives me the opportunity to kind of communicate with you more directly. We're going to be doing some video calls. I'm trying to learn to use this other thing in StreamYard to see if it'll work to do it with the upper 2 levels of membership on the channel. There is a link in the description of this video. If you're interested in supporting the channel that way and becoming a member, then you can join in the weekly members only lives. And if you do the upper 2 levels to the video call that we're going to get going, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I really enjoyed getting to know people who've joined. It's been and a lot of help. We did some accountability yesterday because I don't know if any of you have any, whether it's a chore or something you need to do that you just procrastinate on. For me, it's been my passport, reapplying for my passport. And so a few of us were like, okay, 2 weeks we're giving ourselves to do this and we're going to check back in together. So yeah, members only live / support group / sometimes grief group for me. I was telling, I did join a widows group and I was speaking to a few of them about, what I do on YouTube and the support that I get and have gotten from this community, not just when Tony was going through the worst of his illness, but after he passed as well. And a couple of them got a real big kick out of that. At first, we're like, oh my gosh, I could never speak of it publicly. That would be so hard. But when I spoke to them about the number of people who reached out and we talk about our loss and maybe in the process, try to normalize the grief process at the same time. I know I'm trying to do that for myself. They got it. They got it. And it was really cool. And they really welcomed me. I'd hesitated from joining a group like that because I thought, well, like I told them, I said, well, I didn't think I was a widow because though Tony and I were together for 11 years, we weren't married. We didn't want to get legally married. That was kind of our promise to each other, that I promised to never marry you. And they said, no, you're with the man for 11 years. We have widows in all different forms in their relationships. And I thought, that's so cool and inclusive. And that helped me a lot, because I would not have joined a group like that just thinking that, well, I don't really check that box. And I've been completely corrected on that, in that it's totally okay. Like, my experiences of a widow, that's the experience. And there was something about putting that label on it that really helped me, because in some ways, when I have to explain to people that, my partner died, it's easier in ways to say that I'm recently widowed. You're not using the words death, dying, cancer, having to explain. It's kind of like if you're not going to show up to work and you call in and you say you have diarrhea, no one's going to question it. It's sometimes when you say you lost somebody, especially, if they're younger, it's only natural to be curious. And sometimes I don't want to talk about it. And I feel like when I can just say recently widowed, it shuts it down. And other times then I do want to talk about it, and I am more okay with it. But I am finding a lot of support there, and I've met multiple women in the same situation too, where they weren't legally married, but still can identify as widows and share that shared experience and learn from them. And I was fortunate to find a group where the ages really vary, because I had met people who were widowed who were just so much older, and I learned from them. But there's something, still like being in my 50s. I like to say I'm relatively young to have lost somebody like that. I've just found it to be really, really helpful. So I want to thank those of you who encourage me to still go ahead and try and find a group like that and not get so stuck on the label itself. I appreciate it, because that's what they all said. Like, no, you are completely a widow. That's what this community is about supporting women who've lost their partners. And yeah, so it's been fantastic and hard too, because some of some people in the group are much younger even than me. It's so tragic, but the support is great. So thank you for your encouragement for that. All of you who reached out, in whether you're a member or not, but with emails and comments, and encouraged me to go that route, because it is helping. So thank you, everybody. Please hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe as well. I will see you guys later. And I hope you all get out and have an amazing cult-free day.